Hello again, YouTube. Yeah, I know what the hell I was thinking. It's 6:13. I guess the only thing I was thinking is, hey, I'm up earlier than normal. Let's go to the clinic. Yeah, that worked on like bus time. Obviously, doesn't work on my driving time. So, I did think they were open until like 6:30. Maybe I'm thinking 5:30. I don't know. And of course, the clinic doesn't have posted hours on their building, which to me is pretty freaking lame. It just seems like a pretty fundamental thing all businesses should have posted on the damn door. But for all the crap they have posted on the door, their hours is not one of those things. So anyway, it's still June 15th, 2022, 6:14 p.m. I have 45 minutes to make it to work, and I'm reasonably close. Traffic, I just checked traffic. Yeah, the I-10 through the tunnel to around 7th Avenue, not so good. The rest of freeway between here and the warehouse looks pretty decent. So, here comes my actual traffic report.
Newsflash.
Oh no, this is a news flash.
15. I'm Becky Lynn. Here's what you need to know right now.
Here's what's happening.
KTAR has learned exclusive new details about the moments leading up to when an officer was shot yesterday near 43rd Avenue and Baseline. Phoenix Police Department's Assistant Chief Mike Kurtenbach tells the Mike Broomhead Show it's sign of a larger issue.
What we saw yesterday, Mike, was violence targeted against an officer who ironically was out there trying to keep people from inflicting further harm on members of our community. So this touches all of us.
Just moments before being shot, the officer saw her attackers put on masks before reaching for their weapons. And in those split seconds, she was able to put on her bulletproof vest, which the department credits for saving her life. Hundreds of firefighters in northern Arizona are getting some help from the weather.
Good for her on that. Yeah, that happened. It's easy to tune those kinds of stories out because, violence against police officers just become a daily part of American life and also Phoenix life. And not saying that makes it a good or acceptable thing, but in so many ways society is crumbling, and you don't have to be really laser focused to notice it. Although I will say it's easy for people to tune it out, and I feel like a lot of people do. Just and to put it on a smaller scale, one thing I've noticed has been kind of on my mind lately is that when I was walking and riding the bus, the level of homelessness and the level of just drug use on the streets was really in like, oh wow, the Chase branch on the right is no longer a Chase branch. Well, that's a bummer. It's not one I go to very often, but definitely need to keep in mind there is no longer a Chase Bank branch at 7th Avenue and 7th Avenue and Thomas. And that's certainly a sign of a downswing in the economy when the lucrative banks are closing branches and making cutbacks. That's a red flag. That's a warning, people. Where was I? So driving. Now that the largest portion of my life is just basically work, driving from home to work. That's, every day is exactly the same. It's part of me sometimes I get super depressed about that. If I wasn't so engrossed in what's going on at work right now, I would probably be going insane. But between the aftermath of me nearly taking a red vest level, I want to say AP. I think that's their title, which stands for something, obviously. I don't know. I still haven't figured that out. I still haven't figured out like what the whole management structure. Is it bad that I don't care? I mean, kind of I care. I'm caring more every day. I mean, anyway, yeah, I haven't fully figured that out, but the fact that I went to a high level-ish manager and, nearly punched him in the face and then unloaded quite the verbal assault, but it wasn't really verbal. Well, I mean, there were parts of it were kind of verbal assault, let's be real. There were no shortage of F-bombs, but I'm 100% confident that I didn't do any racial slurs, because that's just really not me. And I didn't hurl insults, which often is me, let's be real. But I didn't go there. When I unloaded, and I think that's why this had the dynamic that it has, I just went off on very specific things that the man is doing wrong. And safety procedures that actually do pose a safety threat to people within the inbound department, that I could see from where I was standing, and I was pointing at him and saying, "What are you doing about that? Blah 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 blah. What are you doing about that?" And so, yeah, it was. Oh wow, I don't think I have ever got that sequence of green lights coming off of Thomas and been able to go to the southbound 17 without even slowing down before. I just don't. Even all my years as a cab driver, I just expect to stop there. That was pretty wild. To Interstate 10. That worked so much better than I expected. Wow. Anyway, so he was saying, yeah, so work's been interesting. Mostly because of the aftermath of that, every level of management looks at me different now, and it's in a really positive and sort of respectful way, as opposed to, oh, this guy's a loose cannon, we should probably find a way to get rid of him. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that I unloaded on him. And that it was just like, these are all the things you're doing wrong. And I mean, I unloaded on him as if I was his boss. But as if I was his boss and a horrible boss. So, yeah. Yeah, so between that and the fact I'm kind of rethinking the offer from the Directory of Safety to maybe work in the safety department, and then the whole thing with being the pit driver, and then the whole new angle it's given to me is sort of the pallet guy, which isn't even an official position, that's just me. Because I was given amazing amounts of freedom over that last night, and I kind of feel like I failed at it, but in some ways I didn't. I don't know. I'm still wrestling with it. I don't know what today's going to bring. It's a different management. It's a whole different chain of command on Wednesdays. Hoping it's the Joe show, but it might not be. Yeah. So it's yeah, if I wasn't so consumed by that, and then of course my usual, wanderings around. At this point, pretty much the only social media I'm really spending any time on. I mean, I keep in touch with people and I look at stories on Snapchat, but it doesn't take long. There's not a lot of people that I know that are still on Snapchat. People seem to be losing interest in it, sadly. And I haven't been posting much myself. But yeah, obviously here I'm on YouTube. And I do a little Reddit, not as much as I used to. I've already pretty much completely lost interest in Twitter. I'm keeping an eye on what's going on with Elon Musk and Twitter, though, because I find that quite fascinating. But as far as actually participating in Twitter myself, it's just that's just noise. That's pretty much the conclusion I came to. It's just a bunch of stupid noise. I could give a fuck less about it. And I highly doubt there's going to be anything in my actual inbox at this point. Anyway, was I? I think I was just talking about just how like my day-to-day life has become just this driving. Oh, it's just so it's easy. It's easy for the average person, especially if they're just tuning out the news, to be oblivious to the level of violence going on against police officers and violence in general and crime in general. If it's not directly involving you, just as much as somebody who drives on this freeway to work and back, it's really easy to ignore the amount of homeless people walking the streets and sitting at bus stops doing fentanyl and just camping in random places behind buildings, because you don't see it when you're driving. You really don't. I mean, you see it sort of, but it's not the same. Like they're not running across the freeway here, It's just not in your face. And I think the reality I'm having right now is a lot closer to most normal people's reality than what my reality was as a pedestrian and a bus rider trying to get to Amazon every day and handle my errands. Although ironically, I seem to have been handling my personal errands better in that context than I am in this context with the vehicle. I mean, I haven't made it to the clinic in quite a while, and it's just because when I'm driving past it going home, it ain't open yet. And by the time I'm in bed, like I'm in bed, I'm not wanting to get up and go deal with that. And again, like I got out of bed earlier today, probably about a half hour earlier than normal. Got out the door a half hour earlier than normal, but a half hour isn't enough to change the fact that that office is closed at 6. I got there at 6:15. They're 6 whatever. They're closed. So yeah, now it's 6:25. I mean, I'm really not particularly early for heading to work. I feel like I am early enough to like stop and get some food somewhere, and I'm thinking maybe I should. Whoa, that truck is fishtailing. What the hell? Give him some space. That was a little scary. I think that's a double trailer too. Yeah, I'll give him some space. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's a double trailer going on. And apparently a driver is not very experienced with pulling double trailers. He can't seem to figure out what lane he wants to be in. That's probably the reaction that people have to me when they're watching me operate a forklift. I will say yesterday I was getting to the point where at some points I was moving with some pretty solid confidence. I was moving at a decent rate of speed, and at other points I was just like, whoa, like zigzagging and kind of just looking like I'm ready to do something, and then suddenly the thing just radically spins like a few inches in one direction as I have a bewildered look on my face and stop, like, oh, that happened. One thing I definitely noticed, and I mentioned this to a couple of managers, and so I think what I was getting, and I'm trying to mention this, and I think I get lost on it, is that I think some of the management, although they respect what I do, feels that I'm wasting time stacking the pallets neatly, that I need to not do that because it's causing. Well, what's happening is just the workflow of pallets is not going fast enough. Period, and I get that. Nobody gets that more than I get that. But that I feel like I'm putting too much effort into stacking them. And probably I am, and I think that's coming from maybe we need a little bit more training on the line loaders and the water spiders as well on how pallets should be stacked, at least a minimum level of it. And then and I did have a manager say, well, they'll fit in the truck like that. They will. I'm not contesting that, but it's a matter of when they're really poorly stacked, it creates kind of a danger for the person operating the forklift when they're stacked really bad. Like I've had issues where they're wobbling, and I'm trying to pile them 20 high, and I've got these tall stacks of wood that are just wobbling, and I'm struggling enough to do that as it is as a new operator. But I noticed whenever I'm on I'm debating as to whether I want to go directly to work and get there a little earlier, whether I want to try to maybe do a little bit of shopping before I go. Well, my armpit's hanging out. That's classy. Or whether I want to go get some food. I think I'm going to turn left. I'm just drawing a blank on what's at the intersection of 75th Avenue and Buckeye. I feel like there's a QT there. Yeah, there's definitely a QT there, because I had that video that I shot one time when I was on my way to work, and I should have been to work on time, and I was late because a bus driver